Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.
Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Jean Till, and on today's show, we're visiting with Jim George. He's a truck driver and evangelist and shares the gospel. And Bishop, you met him at, confirmation somewhere?
I'm not going to say where I met him, but
it's a secret.
No, we gotta have a little mystery here.
Oh,
He's just a good man, and I think captures a spirit that I think should be infectious for all of us as people of faith and disciples of Jesus. But here we are, already the end of July.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and the end of Ragbri today. They're rolling into Guttenberg and the Mississippi River, dipping their tires there as they've kind of rolled across the flatlands. And so finally some hills for them all, but hopefully everyone's been saved. Yeah, right at the very end. So good. And I'm anticipating next week being with our deacons, their annual convocation at Conception Abbey, and both the ones who will become candidates in September, the 19 men who have been putting themselves forward as aspirants and those longtime permanent deacons and their spouses. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about that document, Antiqua et Nova, about old and new, and artificial intelligence, among some of the things. So hopefully that'll spark some great conversation, and the Spirit will be rolling in a beautiful way there also. But no, just the ways in which all that's going on with us, and again, the spirit of summer, the way in which nature is woven into who we are. We respect that Ecclesiastes 3 reading. There's a appointed time for everything under heaven, to plant and uproot, to weep and laugh, to mourn and dance, to scatter and gather, to give birth and to die. We especially here in the Heartland have reverence for the cycle of nature, this 10th anniversary year of Laudato Si', those alternating seasons in which the physical world and the human spirit, that it has to be honored on its own terms and not resisted to generate harmony and peace. We're chosen not only to behold the world in all its created splendor, but to collaborate with God in enabling life and beauty to spring forth. We allow species and stuff to be what they are, to realize themselves, so that we can hand over this gift to those who succeed us. And if we do this well, without simply bending things to our own selfish preferences, if we bless rather than bruise, and if we build up instead of doing violence, we overcome those things that separate us and unite ourselves with God and one another in a bond of love that even death can't deny. Be sure respect for this rhythm of nature and our privileged place in it is not some sort of cosmic karma where what goes around comes around and harmony is a shallow balancing act. Life is not, as one wag commented, one damn thing after another, and then it's over. No, life for Jews and Christians is going somewhere. We're on a pilgrimage set in motion by the God who brings us into being. This God frees us from the forces that would sap our hope, our trust. God favors us as he did Mary, the mother of Jesus, the Son of God, by choosing us as persons to communicate grace, to be craftsmen and artists who receive everything as a gift, and to do so and draw forth beauty. And in the process, we look for that time where we can behold him face to face. The late St. John Paul II, and certainly lots of communities are having art in the park these days, in these weeks and months, but that vocation of artists that Pope John Paul reflected upon. In shaping a masterpiece, the artist not only summons a work into being, but also in some way reveals his or her own personality by means of it. The artist has a special relationship to beauty, and the Polish pontiff continued on that this is a way in which they interpret a mystery below the surface of reality, the mysterious unity of all things. Of course, we have to suffer it, if you will, this unbridgeable gap between the dazzling perfection glimpsed for an instant in the creative moment and what we're actually able to capture, a mere glimmer of that which flared before their eyes in those moments of kind of almost mystical inspiration. True artists are above all ready to acknowledge their limits, just as true believers are able to abide in the gap between the love that's found them, caressed them into being, and that daily struggle amidst ambivalence and indifference as the encounters that we have and seeking with Mary, Joseph, Jesus to make love the last word in our lives. And so we know in a world where war is so vividly present, we know that relationships that we have, we are to be peacemakers in our own right, in our own orbit of life, in our own way of engaging God's creation in a beautiful way, as many of our people who make their living off the land are able to do.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to be visiting with Jim George. He's a truck driver and an evangelist, and he shares the gospel wherever he went. So I'm going to find out about this. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on the Iowa Catholic Radio Network and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Want to hear the show again? Go to iowacatholicradio.com/on-demand and click on Making It Personal.
Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. And on today's show, we're visiting with Jim George, a truck driver and evangelist, and willing to share his story.
Yeah, and I don't know if that strikes you as a little bit odd, Jim, to put that combination together, but we don't know each other very well, and I hope that's one of the fruits of our little conversation today. But you just struck me as a man who's on fire for the Lord, and like all of us, you've got a story and everything else, and I appreciate very much your willingness to be with us and kind of maybe give us a little glimpse into who you are and what God's been up to in your life. So, are you a native of Central Iowa, or are you one who came to be here?
Grew up in between Carlisle and Des Moines.
Okay.
Went to Des Moines schools barely. Thank goodness, because my wife went to Carlisle and wouldn't have had anything to do with me if she knew me growing up. So.
Blessing in disguise, right?
Yeah. So when you have class reunions, there are stories to be told then, huh?
I've never went to one. So.
Sometimes it's better that way.
Yeah.
Right?
So.
Yeah. Well, Carlisle was a different community in those days a little bit, and obviously now it's kind of booming as much of the Des Moines Metro and things. But did you consider yourself kind of more of a small town guy, or?
Just a Iowa farm kid, and yeah, just love the outside. Easter Lake was behind our farm, and I'd just disappear and go fishing, and Mom never worried where I was at, I don't think.
So as a farm kid, you're working in the fields, or you're taking care of the animals, or what was your job as a kid?
I'm the youngest, so we didn't have that much. One of my older brothers got into doing custom hay, if anybody knows what that is, and so I was the muscle that followed around on a hay rack, so that was my exercise, and we didn't have livestock at that point.
You know, Jim, I did tassel corn for 5 summers, certainly as an athlete trainer and everything else. I lasted one day baling hay, and they put me up in the barn, and I was like, oh, man, I think I'm still kind of sneezing some of that stuff out.
Yeah, I didn't have to work out. I got paid less than minimum wage for it.
Well, back in those days, yeah. Not that you're that old, didn't mean that. Yeah, but...
So, my opening segment kind of talking about this relationship with the land. Is that something that you kind of retained, that as you kind of appreciate being, a man here, the simple beauty of Iowa?
I love it. It's, I can drive down the road and just appreciate the beauty of creation in general.
And are you always going to have the radio playing, or do you sometimes just savor the silence in the truck?
My radio's been broken in my truck for 3 years, and I haven't fixed it. I play YouTube videos and just listen to good stuff. Yesterday, when the kid came up to me that we were working with, he's like, "What are you listening to?" And I had Gregorian chant playing. I'm like, it keeps me from being me. It keeps me peaceful and happy. And he just smiles. And we've had some discussions before, and he's one of those people that you're just happy to go work with him. Mm-hmm. And everybody needs to be one of those.
Amen.
I'm not always that, but I try to be.
Gregorian chant, huh? That's impressive.
It's beautiful. And yeah, I'm like, well, it's in Latin, Psalm 10. He goes, do you understand it? No, but I can look it up and read it in English if I want.
So this is an acquired taste. I mean, who exposed you to Gregorian chant?
I have no idea. I just liked it. It kind of got a popular thing probably 20 years ago or more. It got some listen to this.
Those Spanish monks. And,
and it's beautiful and just peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
So was the rhythm of faith kind of woven into your family, or was that something that was there or not there?
This is a long story. But I'm the youngest of 7, and my dad grew up Catholic, went to Dowling, and my mom was a convert, and I was a pure accident. And for whatever reason, Dad, Irish Catholic, I just wasn't exposed to it. I was the only one that was not baptized as an infant, and then started going to a Baptist youth group church at probably 13.
Because some of your buddies invited you, and
well, one of my older brothers, who basically is he protests everything, any kind of authority whatsoever, and he's a great guy. He's one of my friends. He's not just my brother. Love him, and but they'd come pick me up, and Mom, I could tell it was tough for her growing up, but she said whatever gets you closer to Christ is part of God's will. And I was not baptized till I was 33 at Christ the King. And growing up amongst Baptists, if you're familiar with them, for someone to be part of their community and not be tackled and dunked is like, but it wasn't right for me until it was.
So you declined some invitations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for what reason? I knew I needed to be. It just wasn't right for me at any time until.
Was it because God was kind of an intimidating figure for you? You
No.
weren't sure about?
No.
How can I have a relationship with this God?
No, it wasn't that. For whatever reason, it just did not feel right to me.
I think 33 is a good age to be baptized. Just saying.
Yeah, that's kind of ironic.
Yeah.
But and I built the baptismal font that fit on the steps at Christ the King when all they had was, they said they were just going to pour over them. I'm like, well, why don't you have one? Well, so I'm looking up in the ceiling and I'm like, I can build something that'll fit on the steps. And it was built for the old steps on the corner. They still use it. But it's just a tank. I don't know. It was fun. And
That was cool.
like,
So
hey,
you're kind of a St. Joseph, a carpenter and a truck driver? And,
growing up with everybody in our family had different talents, so I was their helper, and I learned a lot from my brothers and dad in a little bit of everything, and pretty good at most of it. So
That's good.
So you've suggested perhaps there was a kind of a wild youth or not?
no, not really.
Okay.
Got plenty of regrets.
Well, don't we all? Take a number.
At the at looking for a nice girl to date and dating ones that I thought were nice, and they weren't. They just weren't real. Were kind of pretend, and I kind of gave up. And I'm like, I'm just going to focus on working and being me, not being influenced by someone else. And kind of prayed to God, hey, if you're going to give me somebody, you'll give me somebody. And
Could you do it by Friday?
oh yeah, and then my wife's mom gave me her phone number, and she was 19, I was 20, and because I just worked all the time, and called her up, and just what you see is what you get with her. She's as genuine a person, and she grew up in an open Bible church, and then we were married there 8 months after that. And it's been 34 years.
Congratulations. And your wife's first name, because no
Jill.
doubt she'll be listening to
Jill.
this. So shout out to Jill. So
Peachy. I call her Peachy because she's a peach, putting up with me.
So they didn't require you to get baptized at the Open Bible Church?
Oh, they asked too. And for whatever reason, I knew it was, important, but I didn't know that it was a necessity. Nobody explained that to me. Stuff isn't always explained correctly by people.
Even as we Catholics, we don't always do a good job, right?
Yeah.
One of our priorities in the diocese is to boldly and clearly communicate the faith. And
Well-
we're trying to accent that.
And I wasn't knocking my mom because she was a beautiful person that loved Christ and the Catholic Church, but she probably explained it to me, and I just wasn't listening like the typical teenage kid. You only hear what you want to hear, and that's all of us till the day we die, I think, sometimes.
So the appointed time finally comes, and you're in your 30s, and was it reading John 3, unless you're born from above, or, It
was many things. It was, my wife and her family that were really close, and did some church hopping, as happens with people. And I remember hearing a pastor, we need to get back to what the early Christians did. And I'm sitting there listening with two thumbs up, like, yeah. And then the next thought is, how do we do that? And it was actually after my mom had passed away when I was about 30. We went to a new church, and the pastor had called me up just randomly, like the day my mom died. And he's like, how's it going? And he's, told him and he goes, oh my, well, did she know the Lord? And I said, I don't know too many people that love Christ more than her. And, what church did she go to? Which was ironic, because I said Christ the King. Well, a lot of Catholic churches are Saint whatever. And his response was just kind of blank and, no response. And I thought that was odd, but looked into it. Now, what do Catholics actually believe? And that got me started. I think one of my first books was, Alan Schreck, What Do Catholics Actually Believe, or something like that. I'm sure I still have it. And it wasn't what I was told or taught by other people. And that's my main thing when I'm talking to somebody, is to try and just clear up the confusion. This is what we do believe, not what you think we believe or what I was taught.
So did you enter a process of Christian initiation at Christ the King? You're doing your own reading? You kind of have a voracious appetite?
It was 2-3 years. My wife would come out 2-3 in the morning, he's maybe in the shop, because I'd wake up and just go out to the shop. It's peaceful, work by myself. And I'm sitting there reading, and I'm not a reader. And she's like, what are you reading? And I was kind of almost,
What's wrong with you is what she's saying.
There's a lot
I'm
wrong
talking to Jake from State Farm. No.
Yeah.
But she'd come out and see me reading this, and I'm in the middle of the night. And what are you doing? And she was happy about it, but asking questions. And I'm like, look at this. This is not what we were told.
Now, did she convert, or is she in this process with you at the same time?
When I finally, I remember reading John 6 and growing up being, with Protestant Bible-believing theology. I read it once, read it twice, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I never heard this, and this isn't, The
great Eucharistic discourse of Jesus.
Yeah. So just one thing after another. And so we've got that. We straightened that one out. I believe in this. But my wife, she comes to Mass with me. She probably, I think she was thinking about going through, I'm going to still call it RCIA, because I can't remember. Because she had committed to teaching the little preschooler age young kindergartners. And there would be no theology difference. We don't agree or disagree anything there, just the basics, one God, Christ, But she was committed to that. But my youngest son went through and came in Easter. And pretty sure she's going to end up being there next year. But she goes to Mass with me. I go to Mass as much as I can.
Weekday Mass,
yes,
even, yeah. How does that work out being a truck driver?
Well, I'm semi-retired, and it's just regional, central Iowa. So, like yesterday, I told him, "Hey, can you do without me? Because I'm quitting." And he goes, "Well, go home and get some sleep." And I'm like, "No, I'm gonna go to church, and then I'm gonna go home and go to sleep."
And do they look at you with a kind of a quizzical look?
No. If they need me, I'll stick around to get a job done before it rains or something. Moving dirt most of the time, so rain's a factor.
So, just the way God worked in your life and your docility to the Spirit. It doesn't sound like you were stubborn in any way, but now there's a kind of holy boldness that when we come back in the next segment, we want to hear a little bit more about, that you're not in your face with other people, but you're not bashful, too, about going there and talking about Jesus and not just what people say Catholics believe, but you've really grounded yourself in a way. And kind of that's where that evangelical spirit rests. So I'm not putting you on a pedestal, Jim, but no, I mean, it's just so authentic and real. It's just being who you are. So we look forward to hearing a little bit more.
We're going to take that break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Jim George, truck driver, evangelist, and a convert to the Catholic faith. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on the Iowa Catholic Radio Network and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Miss part of the show? Just download the Iowa Catholic Radio mobile app, click on podcasts, and find Making It Personal.
Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen.
Jim, thanks for hanging with us here and just kind of sharing some of your story. And, so it was the appointed time, and you were baptized, you came brought in the church. Your wife, Jill, there's a journey going on for her as well. And she's with you, but not totally sharing faith in all ways.
I think she's really ready. Like I say, she goes to Mass. She'll go to 7 a.m. Mass at Christ the King with me most of the time, and then go home and go teach the little kids about Christ at a non-denominational church. And there's, like I say, we've had discussions that you're teaching the little kids that need to hear about God and Christ. Maybe not the complete, but there are I'm sure they're not ready for it.
There are three persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So do some of the people on the job with you think, oh, Jim's that Jesus freak, don't get him going, don't get him wound up?
No. I don't know, try and share it as easy and peaceful as I can, and people have asked me, and I'm like, they say, you believe in that? Well, yeah, I do. And it's like they're surprised. I don't know, maybe by the way I act sometimes when I'm not being what I should be. But
and they point that back? Do they throw that back in your face?
No, not really, because I've always had a really good work ethic and attitude, and no matter what it is, and have pretty good common sense for figuring out a more efficient way of doing something. And sometimes it's against what they're thinking, but I try and convince them of it because it's our duty to do our job well, is productive, and save money, for them, or just do the right thing.
You've got a keen sense of justice. Kind of intuition.
That came from my mom and dad.
Speaking of mom and dad, how did Jill's parents take this whole journey you've been on?
Not well at all.
Okay.
So, you just swore I had worms crawling out my ears when I told them. But they, believe it or not, came to my baptism and confirmation and were at Christ the King, I think probably just to see. I don't know. I hope it was in support. They are great people and loving.
So were you baptized in the font that you built, or did that come later? How about that?
That's really cool.
Are your initials on there somewhere?
No.
I'll have to look the next time celebrating.
I kind of forgot I did it until somebody mentioned it that I hadn't seen. No, I just still remember that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I did.
You built a font and you weren't even baptized.
No.
Wonderful. You said at one point, maybe during the break, that you kind of like to regard yourself as to be forgettable. What do you mean by that?
Growing up, being the youngest of 7, you just tried to be invisible sometimes because I was 6 boys, 1 girl. I was kind of a human punching bag growing up sometimes, and
we oldest children can relate to that.
And so can we youngest.
I deserve some of it, but we grew up. A lot of us raced motorcycles, and when I would go to the races, two of my older brothers who I love would be a little too dramatic about stuff, and they'd know I was there because they'd see me on the track or hear my name or whatever, but people for years would never know who I was because I just go off by myself and enjoy the peace. So,
Well, Jim, you say you don't want to be forgettable, but I will long remember this conversation. And people who may not know you out there, but if they cross paths with you, and the conversation gets going, they won't be able to understand who you are unless ultimately Jesus comes into the picture, because your relationship with him is so real and down to earth and just attractive. So you're a good man, and I thank you for taking time with us today.
Thanks for being here, or letting me be here.
This has been another edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. Thanks to our guest and all of our listeners in Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, or wherever you may be listening to the Iowa Catholic Radio Network and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.